Guys, I am back with you again this week for another spread in my 2019 Project Life album. This week I am working on week 7, which was Valentine's Day week. So I've got a bunch of stamp sets pulled out that I would like to use because I had purchased, I think, 2 stamp sets in January, I believe, that are kind of love or Valentine's Day themed. So what I've done is I've decided, since the photos are so busy and there's a lot of red going on, that I wanted to keep the cards pretty simple. So my title card, I've got one of the pieces of the Felicity Jane papers cut down to a 4x6. It's just a white background with some tiny black hearts. And then for the 3x4 card, I just used the filler card that came in the kit, which is a black and white stripe with a gorgeous floral in the middle of it. So what I wanted to do was use this little heart, little flower stamp that came in the stamp set with the Lindsay kit, and I am just going to stamp it using some VersaFine black ink onto 3 different papers. So this first one is just the cardstock that came with the kit. So I'm going to stamp it 4 times on the darker coral, and then I flipped it over and I'm going to stamp it 4 more times on this lighter pink shade. And then I will also pull over that leftover piece from the title card that I made last week on that pattern paper just there on the right. And I'll stamp it 4 times on that one as well. So I'm going to use these flowers after I fussy cut them to go across my title card for the week. So I decided just to alternate how I'm stamping it, just so that way each of the stamped images doesn't have the exact same look as far as the pattern on the flower itself. So you'll see there that I finally got my Lawn Fawn stamp chamois out, and so I soaked it with some water and I put it inside a Ziploc bag, so it's just sitting there for me to use, but it really is not doing a great job at cleaning the stamps off, so I'm finding that I still have to use baby wipes, which is a little bit frustrating, but maybe it's got too much water on it so it can't absorb the ink. I don't know. When I took it out of the package, it was like super slick. It was all hard and crusty. I'm not sure what the issue with that thing is, but I need to get it figured out. So I'm just going to fussy cut all of these florals, and I'm not going to make you watch me do all of them, but it's a pretty simple stamp, so it's super easy to cut them out. So now I have all of those cute little flowers cut out. I'm going to bring my title card back over. And I'm just going to start arranging them across that bottom, I don't know, maybe it's at the 3rd mark. And then I'm going to use the die cuts that I made from the Ellie Edwards stamp set for this week. I felt like I needed something that was a bit more bold to stand out against that black and white pattern background. So I'm really not trying to do like a repeating pattern, I would say, with these florals. I'm trying to just stick them in wherever they look good. I don't want them to be like dark, light, printed, dark, light, printed. I just want them to look a little bit random. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with my Nuvo glue, and I'm going to just put a little dot of glue on the center of the flowers, just so that way the edges stay lifted up a bit. Because if you know, when you fussy cut things like this, at least when I do it, they tend to kind of curl up around the edges, which adds some dimension, which I like. So I want to try to keep that. So I'm just going to finish sticking these down. I love how the week 7 ended up turning out. I wanted to keep the colors just to mostly black and white. Obviously, I'm adding in some color here on the title card, but because the photos were so busy and there was such a prominent red color, I didn't want to add in a whole lot of other color. So I'm just going to trim off those pieces that were overhanging, and then I'm going to fiddle just for 1 second with where I'm going to adhere down the week 7. So I end up sticking it over on the left-hand side. I don't know why I get picky about things. I like the way things look tucked in, but then when I was tucking in the 7, and this is going to sound super silly, but when the bottom of the 7 was inside of the flowers, for some reason, it just was bothering me. So I wanted to kind of move it over to where the whole 7 was visible, which is super silly. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back of it, just enough to keep it adhered down. And I'm going to go ahead and commit. And then the last thing that I need to do on this card, which looks great just the way that it is, to be honest, is get my date label. So I went looking for one within the die cut pack, but the black on the label that came in the kit is a bit more muted than the week 7 and the stamping that I have. So I wanted to keep away from that. And I decided to use this light pink, which actually pretty much matches the pink that is in the flowers that I just found in my stash. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp down the dates for the week. And then I draw in a little heart to separate the dates, but I didn't like the way that it turned out. So I went into my teeny tiny puffy stars and dots and hearts that I got from Felicity Jane, and I will add in the striped puffy heart on top of the heart that I end up drawing on there. And I like the way that that turns out much, much better. So I'm just going to trim this little label. And I probably should have stamped higher up onto the label so that I could tuck it down a bit more, but I like the way that it turns out. It's fine. You can see it. The dates actually kind of fit perfectly within the petals that are sticking up on the flowers, so no big deal. So I'm trying to catch up on my Project Life spreads. I had a couple of weeks that I really wasn't getting much done, so now that I've caught up at least to the photos that I've printed out, I need to place another order for my pictures. I don't know what week we're currently in, but maybe 11? I think I'm about a month behind. Yeah, because today's St. Patrick's Day, but the video won't go up until a week from now. So I'm a pretty good ways behind you guys. So there I'm just sticking on that striped puffy heart, and my title card for the week is done. And I love the way that that turned out. So then I'm going to grab over this photo that I took of my daughters sleeping. If I'm remembering correctly, there was a day that I had to go pick them up early from school because we'd gotten quite a bit of snow and school was out for the day, but their before and after program was still in session. But they actually were asking parents to come pick kids up early because the roads were just starting to get too bad. So I picked them up. I was sitting at the table working and I looked up because it got really, really quiet and they both were just sleeping like little babies on the couch. I don't know what they did at the school program that day, but they must have gotten super duper worn out. So on this one, I'm going to use a couple of rubber charms, the love, and then the little banner piece that says with all my heart, because I do love them with all my heart. And even though they're sleeping, these are sweet little moments that I like to capture. So then I fiddle a little bit with this floral piece. I just could not decide what I wanted to do with it. But I did make a decision in the end. I'm going to pop it up on a foam dot and it will stick up just a little bit higher than the rubber charms. But I do fiddle with it longer than I should have, and I think it was about at that moment that I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I will go ahead and reach for my red line tape so that I can just get those adhered down. That's always what I use when I stick down rubber shapes is red line tape. So far, so good. I haven't had anything fall off. So if it ain't broke, why fix it? So I'm just going to stick a couple of lines of that down on the love piece, and then I'll stick one down on the little banner piece that goes underneath it. And I love the way that these two look together. They just sort of lay perfectly. And it helps cover up my laptop bag that's laying on the floor there. So really, I guess if that week goes through February 17th, I've only got a couple of more weeks to use the Lindsay kit, and then I will be into the Jamie kit. And really, I mean, you can see everything that's on my desk there. For the most part, I still have all that stuff left, so I've got plenty of product to do 2 more weeks worth. And I'll have a ton left over, likely. I think this month, though, I've been doing better on using the pattern paper than I was last month, maybe. So now I'm going to grab in this 3x4 photo of the roses that my husband left me on the kitchen table that I came down to when I woke up on Valentine's Day. They are super gorgeous. And then I'm going to get out this stamp set that I think is from Studio Calico and in a Creative Bubble, I believe. And I'm just going to pull out the stamp that says Finders Keepers, because that's how I feel about my husband. I found him, he's mine. So I'm just going to use my black StazOn ink. And of course I have to test it because I have not used this stamp yet, but it stamps out perfectly. So we are good, and it kind of fits into the wood grain from the table down there in the corner, so it's kind of perfect. Or maybe it says definitely a keeper. Yeah, I think it says definitely a keeper, which he is. And then I'm going to get out this 3x4 photo of my daughters. My mother-in-law had stopped by and left them their Valentine's Day gift, I think the day before Valentine's Day. And she had gotten them these really cute headbands that remind me just like of love bug headbands. They've got little glittery hearts on the antennas. So I'm just trying to figure out what in the heck I'm going to do with this photo. So I decided to take from that same stamp set the row of sketchy hearts, and I'm going to stamp those down at the bottom of the photo with my Moonlight White Brilliance ink. And I'm a little bit out of frame, but after I stamp it, I will push that up into frame. It turns out really, really well. And then on top of it, I am going to layer that little word die cut that says love. So as always, I'm going to clean my stamp off, make sure that it's nice and clean before I put it back. So then I fiddle a little bit. I don't know, should I layer it on top of the hearts? Should I put it above the heart? And I end up putting it up above the row of hearts. It's so funny to me to watch myself. We're talking like what, maybe an eighth of an inch difference. It's so silly. So I end up just setting it above the row, and then I will staple it on either side, and I'm done with that one. So moving on to this filler card, I was going to try to layer something on top of the floral, and then I decided to just leave it the way that it was. And then for this 4x6 photo of my daughters, I have the You Are Love tag that was in the free digital download. And I did alter it a little bit because I think I had to make the cut file for it. So instead of centering the You Are Love sentiment, I just slid it down into the circle that I had made for the cut, just to off center it a little bit. So I've just used some, I think, 1/4 inch satin black ribbon to thread through there, and I stapled it down. And this card is almost done. I just want to put one more little embellishment on there. I thought I would use one of those tiny confetti hearts, but then I dip into those Felicity Jane Buffy stickers. I love these things. I'm going to have to order some more because I am almost now out of the tiny hearts, which is making me a little bit sad. Also means I need to start using the stars, but I love hearts. So again, I think I am going to use a striped one. Sorry, I'm out of frame here. There we go. That one's done. And then the last thing I have here are some photos. I had taken my daughters to get their hair cut, And so I had taken a couple of photos of each of them in the chair. And then I have this super silly picture of my daughter while we were waiting. It had snowed that day, so my hairdresser was running a little bit late. So while we were waiting for her to get there, my daughters, they have a little play area for kids there. So they took the dice out of the play area and they were rolling the dice, and then it was landing on whatever number, and they were alternating. So the first number it landed on, they would do that many jumping jacks, and then the next number it landed on, they would do that many push-ups. It was super funny to watch them just run back and forth doing push-ups and jumping jacks. So they said they were doing a fitness challenge, and I just thought that was hilarious. So I took a picture of my oldest daughter doing her push-ups. So you guys know I always make some kind of a mistake or something I have to cover up, and here's where it happens. So I decide to pull out this stamp set. I don't remember which collection this was from, but excuse me. It has the UR stamp there, and then underneath it a rock star. So I decide to stamp that, and just to make sure that the UR kind of stuck out like I wanted it to, I went ahead and stamped it using black ink on some white cardstock, and then I just cut it out. I'm so sorry, you guys. So the You Are a Rock Star, or the You Are a Rock Star, I stamped down with some black ink, but that rug that they have is so busy that you really can barely read it. So I end up having to kind of cover what I had done. So I'm just going to get out a piece of white cardstock so that I can stamp down the UR. And it's stamped just perfectly the first time, so I was excited about that. So there I am trying to use that stamp chamois again. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with the one that I got. Or maybe it's not the chamois' fault. Maybe it's my fault. So if you guys know what I'm doing wrong, let me know in the comments down below, because I really, really want that chamois to work, but I just cannot figure out for the life of me why it's doing what it's doing. I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that down so obviously you can see that really, really well. So I don't know if I would have used white ink instead of black ink, if it would have stood out better. You'll see after I stamp it, I test it to see if it's dry, because I thought about stamping over the black with my white ink, but that would have just been a hot mess. So luckily I realized that and did not attempt to do that. So there you can see, you can see that I've stamped it, but even from here, you can barely read it. So there's that moment when you're like, what on earth do I do now? So what I'll do is I will dip into my labels and pull this one out. And this was one of the labels that I saw when I was looking for a label for my title card. It's that same kind of color of pink, because this is a Felicity Jane label as well. It's just wide enough that it covers the stamping that I did directly on the photo. So I'm going to stamp out that sentiment directly onto that label. And there, obviously, that is much, much better. So then I will adhere down that label, trim off the excess, and then I will layer the UR right on top of it. Put that back in my stash. I can use that again some other time. So we are getting towards the end, you guys. So the last thing that I need to do is write out my journaling on this card that came in the kit. It says I want to remember. So I'm just going to journal about the fact that the kids were doing a fitness challenge while we were waiting to get her haircut. It was just super silly. And then I'm going to make a flip pocket with that other photo. And I will end up going back to add a tab onto the side of that, but I decided to wait until I do week 8, which will be on the reverse side of this, because I don't know what word I'm going to want to use for week 8. I don't even remember what pictures I have for week 8. So I will deal with that next week. So there is how my flip pocket will look. You guys let me know. This video is pretty long. Let me know if you'd prefer I speed it up to 4 times and then it'll be half of what it is now. I'm thinking about doing that. But anyway, here's some close-ups. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.